Welcome to The Art of Business. I'm your host, Eric Baker. I sit down with entrepreneurs right here in Dade City and the surrounding areas to find out about their backgrounds, how they built their businesses, and what their secrets for success are. Today, I'm joined with Miss Mary Catherine Mason. She's the owner of Lanky Lassise Shortbread. They're located at 37845 Meridian Avenue in Dade City, Florida. You can also find them at llshortbread.com. Mary Catherine is a mother. She's a veteran. She's a business owner. She's a college graduate. Really, she's an inspiration for any aspiring entrepreneur. She's a real go-getter. We talk about her upbringing, what she was like as a child, her time served in the military, how she got the idea for the shortbread business, how she uses social media to advertise for her business, and how she doesn't just sit around and wait for things to happen. She's out there putting her products and her services in front of as many people as possible. She's initiating the conversations with the different local media outlets instead of just waiting for them to come to her. I really enjoyed my conversation with her. She's really an impressive person. I learned a lot from the conversation, and I think you will too. Miss Mary Catherine, thanks a lot for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. Now, I've seen a lot of the interviews that you've done with ABC. And just correct me anywhere here if I'm wrong. So you've talked about your background being in the hospitality industry, and you were supplying interior design and doing the procurements for hotels, for new hotels being built, or I guess existing hotels that were being renovated. So meanwhile, though, in the background, you were building your shortbread business. Now, albeit a side business at the time, but you were still building a business. You were building the brand and creating the product and a following, and I assume at least at a rudimentary level, some system for production and distribution, right? Then in 2020, all the craziness happens and you get furloughed, which led to you taking your shortbread business from a side hustle to a full-time gig. You now have your physical store in Dade City, and you have a well enough established brand that you're able to sell your product nationwide on your own website, llshortbread.com. This is all completely fascinating to me, how you've been able to go from that part-time gig to a full-time gig. And we're going to dive into all of it. But before we just jump into any of that, I've got to ask you, are you a barbershop quartet singer?
Yeah, I am a barbershop singer, and I am in a quartet and a chorus. So, yes, you've done your homework very well.
Sweet Adelines Quartet, right? Speakeasy?
So the Sweet Adelines is the name of the organization, and then my quartet name is Speakeasy.
Gotcha.
Yes.
So are you the lead?
Yes.
You're the lead?
I'm the lead singer.
Wow, okay, yeah. So you can sing. Right on. Okay, so what's the history with that? How'd you get started with that?
So I'm a brat, meaning my dad, my grandparents, they all sang barbershop. And
really?
I grew up going to these regional and international competitions as a child with my dad, and I hated going to them. And I'm like, why are we going, to these competitions for the 4th of July every year? Well, then apparently I didn't hate them. And when I moved to South Tampa after graduating college, I found out my dad's old director was the director of the Toast of Tampa, which was the show chorus in Tampa.
Okay.
And I said, well, I think it'd be fun to have a hobby. So I started doing that, and that's how I got into it. Okay. And then decided that we would start a quartet as well. Now, we haven't sang for a little bit with COVID, but
sure.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Okay. So, and I also understand that you're a Florida native. I mean, you're one of the few. You graduated from Zephyr Hills Zephyr Hills High in 2001. Is that right?
Correct.
So what was your upbringing like? What was your family like? What was your mom and dad? Or are you an only child? What were you like as a kid? I mean, give us the history of Miss Mary Catherine.
So I was born in Dade City. My parents moved from Indiana to Dade City in, I think, 1969. Dr. Smalley, who's a local veterinarian here, hired my dad right out of college. And then my mom followed. And they had a family in Dade City. And then it was my dad's children he had with the previous marriage. So my mom wanted to start having a family of her own.
Sure.
And so they started doing that, and then my dad wanted to have his own clinic, so he bought a clinic in Zephyr Hills. So when I was born, we all moved to Zephyr Hills, the younger children. So I was raised in Zephyr Hills my whole life. Came from a pretty well-rounded family of, my dad was a farmer growing up, and then decided he was the only child of 5 to go to college, so he went to Purdue. But he also sang and would build things and was a doctor. So I had a very good role model there. My mother is a speech language and hearing pathologist, so she worked in the school system. She had her own private practice. But I was very heavily involved in dance when I was young, and then sports when I got older.
Sure.
So basketball was my life. Swimming, I threw discus and track. Played a little bit of volleyball.
Yeah.
And so athletics was really my main focus. I was the class clown. I was, 6 foot tall, and just kind of made jokes about everything, and got most spirited in high school, kind of a wild person.
Nice.
I'm the baby of 5, so we have to make ourselves known or we'll get forgotten type thing.
Sure. So
I went to college at USF.
Yep.
And went there, and I was kind of bored. Now September 11th happened my freshman year, which was huge for everyone.
Sure.
So when that happened, I have 2 brothers and a brother-in-law and a whole bunch of friends that joined the Marine Corps. And after September 11th happened, just something, sparked inside of me where I said, I just think I need to join. So 1, I don't regret it. 2, I want to serve my country and make a difference. So
sure.
I did that whole year of school, and in May of 2002, I just left and joined the Marine Corps, but I was smart. I joined the reserves.
Okay.
So I could come back to school and do that. And so I joined in May, came home in December, and got sent straight to Iraq in 2003. So that's why I said I was smart. Because apparently the reservists are the first to go.
Gotcha.
I thought they were the reservists. So, so then I got sent to Iraq. And
sure.
I'm not sure how much detail you want of all that, but
as much as you want to give. I mean,
so I went there. I was a truck driver. I drove 5,000 gallon fuel tankers, or LVS vehicles, which are logistic vehicle systems. They're 22.5 ton trucks. We were general support, so I supplied fuel and water, and we were there. We left in January of 2003, and so the war hadn't started yet, so we lived in a camp in Kuwait, Camp Coyote. Okay. So we hung out there and supplied water to other camps and stuff like that, and fuel until the war started. So on March 23rd, we all breached north going into Baghdad. Right. And then March 25th, it wasn't that long after the war had started, there was some pretty severe sandstorms, and my convoy was in charge of resupplying infantrymen or grunts at the Battle of Nasiriyah. So we were in a convoy of troops, and they were, there's so many vehicles, like hundreds and hundreds of vehicles just driving in the middle of the desert. And there was an ambush the night before with an Army maintenance group. That was the whole Jessica Lynch situation. So of course we didn't know who anyone was or what happened. We just knew that something happened and they got ambushed. So that was right where we had pulled in at night. So it was pretty chaotic. There was the Battle of the Nasiriyah happening, and then the sandstorm. It was like hurricane winds with sand. Right. So the next morning when I was refueling all these grunts, I got thrown off the top of the truck that I was refueling, shattered my ankle. Oh my God. And eventually made it back to the United States. First through Germany, and then to the U.S.
Sure. Wow. Okay. Okay. Geez. All right. So again, I have here. So then in 2002, you served your country for 6 years, while simultaneously you earned your degree in USF for advertising and mass communications. Yeah. And then after college is when you started working in hospitality, I believe, for Meridian Companies.
Yeah. So this is my uncle's company, and he hired me right out of school to be a sales rep for him.
Okay. Now, did you have a sales background at that point?
So in advertising school, I took a lot of focusing classes on sales. So that was probably where I really wanted to go.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was, I didn't think about hospitality sales, but it was convenient. And, you know, when I started looking for a job, I'm like, they all want experience. I don't have any. I was a waitress. Like, that's my sales experience. So he hired me right out of college, and I jumped into the hotel industry.
And so what was it like? So selling interior design and I mean, that seems interesting in and of itself.
Yeah. So his company, the Meridian Companies, we sold tons of different interior products for hotels. So like custom hand tufted area rugs. I did a lot of work with Disney and Marriott. Granite countertops, quartz, cabinetry, mosaics, shower surrounds. I mean, a lot of items that you see in hotels.
Wow.
So I started doing that, and I moved to Orlando in 2009. I worked in conjunction with Meridian Companies with a company called ISG, which is Installation Service Group. So they installed all the furniture. So I was working with them together, but they told me I needed to move to Orlando. So I lived there for 10 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And I ended up moving to another company in 2018 called Envision Hospitality Design. And they offered a turnkey package for hotel owners. So we would do the interior design, we would procure all of the finishes or the FF&E, furniture, fixtures, and equipment.
Gotcha.
And then we could also install it. So with that job, I was able to move back to, Dade City is where I ended up moving.
Yeah.
My mother lives here and a lot of friends. So
with
2 small children, my husband and I thought it'd be a great idea to move to small town USA in 2019.
Sure. Awesome. Okay. So, and now your website says that Lanky Lassise Shortbread was born in 2011. And so as I understand it, and again, just correct me if I'm wrong. So you had samples of your shortbread that you would give away as gifts at parties and different events. And then you had such an overwhelming response to it that you entered it into the 2011 Scottish Highland Games in Central Florida.
Yes.
And you brought home the gold medal.
I did.
Which ultimately, I guess, led to you registering the business. So talk about that. Talk about the inception of the business. What was that all about?
So traditionally, shortbread is made for Christmas or special occasions like weddings. My mother always made shortbread for Christmas, so I was just used to that. So I would make shortbread for my hotel owners for Christmas. One of my coworkers in 2009, when I first moved there, said, "This is the best shortbread I've ever had. Did you know there's a Scottish Highland Games shortbread competition?" And I said, "No." And she's like, "It's right here in Winter Springs. You should totally enter this." So that was 2009. I was in my 20s. So sacrificing a Saturday night was very difficult for me in those days. So I didn't quite make the competition until 2011. And even in that year, I was the 31st out of 32 contenders to enter. So I kind of made it in by the skin of my teeth. It was really fun. My mom was there, whose grandmother's recipe it is. And my Aunt Pat Murray, who is married to my grandpa's brother. So she had this Scottish connection of our family and the shortbread. And my best friend Amanda was there, and I made it in, and I won first place. The first year I competed, you would have thought I won $1 million. I won this huge trophy. I mean, it was obscene how big it was. And I was walking around the Highland Games, which is like a Renaissance festival, and people are saying, "What did you do? Did you throw a caber, which is the big telephone poles? Did you hurl haggis or do the boulder boogie?" And I said, "No, I won the shortbread competition." And so many people said, "You're so tall, though, and you make shortbread?"
Yeah.
And I thought that was hilarious. So I started just like brainstorming, and, brains were wrinkling. And, I was just like, I have got to do something with this. So I came back home, and I was talking to my roommate. I was like, I have to come up with a company name for this. So I pulled out my little word webs like I used to do in advertising school, and we figured it all out. And so Lanky Lassie's Shortbread, and then the slogan is Long Leg Shortbread was born.
Yeah.
And I became infatuated and obsessed with this, just like all I was thinking about. And I had a friend that I grew up with who drew caricatures at Busch Gardens. I'm like, can you draw a kilt on these like I looked up clip art, I got these legs, I'm like, can you do a kilt in green and pink and this and that? And so we came up with the logo, and it was small, it was word of mouth, it was doing a baby shower here, doing a party here. And then my roommate was getting married, and she said, can you do my wedding? I would like to do little, like the little gifts for the wedding. I need 170 of them or something.
Right.
I was like, oh yeah, totally. We can absolutely do that, without knowing what I was doing.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that really kick-started the whole wedding thing. And the one that really was the big kicker was I did a Scottish wedding. And there was a lot of those cookies. So I imported these chocolate molds from England. They were a thistle, which is the national flower of Scotland, and we tied heather and ribbon.
Nice.
And so it just started becoming this thing, even though I had a full-time job.
Yeah, yeah.
I created the website. It was a side hustle, but it was a passion.
Yeah.
But I never had the time to really focus my efforts on making cookies.
Sure. So, okay. So now you're working in the hospitality industry. Things are going well. Not, no major complaints. You've got the shortbread business on the side, earning some extra cash when you need it. And then April of 2020 happens and everything shuts down and you're furloughed. And most people at that point would have taken a gigantic step back, but you didn't. You took a step forward, and you took your shortbread side business to a full-time gig. And you found a resource in Pasco County called the Smart Start Program. Mm-hmm. How did you find them? So when
COVID happened, our sales from the company I was at dropped 88% in 3 months.
Holy
so
cow.
From January to March, it dropped 88%. So when my husband and I and my family moved from Orlando to Dade City, my husband was a teacher in Orlando. So he quit in December when we went into contract with the house to renovate the home that we were in. So it was the original interiors of 1971. So we had a little bit of work to do. So from 2019 still to 2020, he did not have a job with any income coming in. And I had the job. I had a decent job, and I was able to support our whole family with that while the house was being renovated. So when I was told I was furloughed without pay, I was like, well, that's kind of a problem.
Yeah.
We have no income. How am I going to put food on the table type situation?
Right.
So I started going on social media saying, well, looks like I do not have a job anymore, so I'm going to start doing Lanky Lassise full time. And I already had a little bit of a following, and people knew about me and stuff. And I think with them, I think they felt bad. I think people were bored. I think there was a lot of factors. Yeah. But people were ordering like crazy. Now I'm doing this out of my house, and the more I was doing it, I'm like, I don't think legally I should be doing this. So. There's a page on Facebook called Dade City Life. And so I would see his posts all the time. His name's Kevin Taggerty. I didn't know that at the time. Yeah. And so I messaged him and I said, hey, I see you post stuff all the time. And you have 3,000 some followers. Can you kind of maybe post something about Lanky Lassise and whatnot? Yeah. And so we started chatting just in this like messenger. Yeah. And somehow, and I started to look for kitchens at this time because I knew that was what I needed to do. I needed to get I didn't know I needed a food permit, but that's what ends up happening. I knew I needed to bake out of a commercial kitchen to sell wholesale. And that's really where I was like, I was okay doing it out of my house because it was more cottage law. which now you can ship with cottage law. You used to
Cottage
not
law.
be.
What's that?
So cottage law is where you bake out of your home and you
Okay.
sell. It used to be just person to person. So like farmers markets, or if you bake something.
Okay.
But once you ship legally, you're supposed to have a food permit with the Department of Agriculture.
Okay.
I didn't know any of this at the time.
Yeah.
But anyway, but they just recently changed that. I think December of last year, they made it where you can ship with cottage law. But in order to sell wholesale, so there was other businesses in town that I wanted them to sell my product.
Sure.
So he said, well, there's this new kitchen. It hasn't started yet, but I was about to do the ribbon cutting, and with COVID, everything was insane. So he said, here's this guy's number. His name's Dan Mitchell. I think you should call him. I said, okay. So I called Dan Mitchell. I go to the kitchen. It's 2 miles from my house. It's the Pasco EDC Smart Start. And basically they have the commercial kitchen, and the Department of Agriculture comes and they look at the kitchen. They go, okay, here's your food permit. This is what it costs. Now you can legally sell wholesale. They also have programs for entrepreneurs. They have, that one is specific to, food industry.
Sure.
Where they have a new one that opened last year in Wesley Chapel that is more business driven, but they have classes and courses. They have, the one in Wesley Chapel has offices that you can rent by the month. They have a conference room. Yeah.
Wow.
So they have like 6-week programs and stuff like that. I didn't do those programs. I more used the kitchen for that.
Sure.
So with that, I was able to sell wholesale.
Gotcha. Okay. Oh, fantastic. Okay. So then that answers the question about how they helped you. And so I did see that you mentioned that that's how you got your commercial kitchen, the tax receipt, and the manufacturing license was all through them.
Yeah, I mean, I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah. Awesome.
So I said, Dan, just tell me what paper to sign and what I do. Because, my mind is creative. And, doing my taxes and all this just horrifies me because it's just not what I'm even used to.
Right.
So they gave me such good direction. And I know now I can just pick up the phone and say, I don't know what I'm doing. Can you help me here?
Awesome.
And then they help me.
Yeah. So then things started taking off, right? And your husband joins the business full time now as well.
He did help me bake.
Okay.
I wouldn't say it was necessarily a full-time thing, but he did help me bake when I needed help because there would be, some days were just nuts, and we have this tiny, tiny little oven in our house. And so, but yes, he would help. I went and bought this huge mixer, this 20-quart Hobart mixer. And that was the first thing I got because I said, my little KitchenAid, which I thought was big, I said, my little KitchenAid is not going to cut it. So, but yes. And then he ended up starting at Pasco High School as a teacher in August of 2020.
Okay.
So,
Gotcha.
yes.
Okay. So now, and I think you may have touched on this a little bit, but how did people find your products? Were you running any paid advertising? Was it pretty much all social media, word of mouth type?
Yeah. So I'm a pretty big social media hustler.
Okay.
I also, my degree's in mass communications and advertising. So I had some friends that are in, journalism. And so I wrote up my own little story. And
I read about this. I was going to ask you. Yeah.
I wrote up a story, and one of my friends, Carly Boyette, she was on ABC Morning Blend.
Yeah.
I said, Carly, I wrote a story in case you need a little filler spot.
I love this.
And here's a bag of shortbread,
Yeah.
and I'm hanging it on the doorknob of your house.
Yeah.
I said, you can do what you want with it, but here's a quick little story. She's like, how about Thursday? You want to come on the show Thursday?
Yeah.
I said, yeah, I do. So I find the power of the news, social media. Posting things constantly. I create my own ads visually. I try to make them as, popping as, they can be.
So you do run ads occasionally then somewhere? Or?
So at first it was just me doing it.
Okay.
And one of the things that I learned was years ago, I made a profile on Facebook for Lanky Lassise, not a page.
Okay.
So I didn't know the difference at all. So I had like 2,000 friends on this Lanky Lassise profile.
Right.
And then I learned, no, really for your business to to be successful on social, it needs to be a page.
A page.
So I had to start completely from scratch.
Right.
I mean, I was like, you can't just take this info and put it here. And they're like, no.
Yeah.
So I had to do the page, but then I got in touch with, I use GoDaddy for my website. And then they have a lot of different, e-commerce and businesses that you can tie into it. So one of their businesses is called GoDaddy Social. And so GoDaddy Social, they were running a COVID special. So it was like half the cost type thing. And what they would do is either I could tell them what I want them to post, or because I'm a control freak, I would create most of the advertisements, give it to them. And then with your monthly fee, they post it and boost it and send it to the target audience that you're looking at. And it will say sponsored type thing.
Sure.
So you can say something along the lines of, okay, we're going to run a special of XYZ for these days. Please run this type thing.
Gotcha.
So I learned
and that's
about
what you would put in your ads is were you trying to get people, did you have a store at this point?
No.
Okay.
So this is
just for purchasing the product.
This is all online. So really I started off all online.
Yeah. Okay.
Shipping all over the place.
Yeah.
There was a lot to learn. I didn't know you could get free boxes from USPS if you ship priority. I didn't, I didn't know all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of growing pains. My website was like under construction for years because I had built it years ago and then I never had time to update it. And GoDaddy had changed platforms. And so I had to rebuild the whole website. I had to get everything working and moving. I mean, there's days where I'm just sitting there like on the edge of just like, you know,
sure.
I don't know what I'm doing.
Sure.
And, but because I had to feed those babies, there was no other option for me. Failure wasn't even an option.
Sure.
So it's impossible to fail type thing. So, so yes, I would use social media to as extreme as I could. I learned what hashtags were. Didn't even know the importance. I'm like, why are people doing these hashtags? They're so dumb. And then I'm like, they're not dumb. They make you money if you use them correctly. I did have a group of 10 friends that I would say, I have them in a group text, and I would say, I just posted something. Can you guys share? And the importance of that is, Sally has 2,000 friends. Katie has 3,000 friends, whatever. If I just post and I'm just starting on a brand new page with nothing, and let's say I have 500 viewers, well, that just went to 25,000 viewers at a click of your text.
Sure.
So, I mean, I just got as creative as I could.
Gotcha.
Without really spending a lot of money.
Right. Interesting. And then that's how your product got known nationwide, is that your friends have friends who have moved and they now live somewhere, another state. Now they have found out about it and their friends have found out about it, and it just spreads.
And with social media, it's so fast to do that.
Yeah.
And like I said before, I think people were feeling bad for me or just wanted to see me, succeed.
Sure.
So it turned into this thing of, oh, I'm going to give you this gift of shortbread.
Yeah.
And then that person goes, oh, this is really good. I want to send this to so-and-so. So you could start seeing very quickly this snowballing, situation.
Right. Okay. So now let's fast forward a little bit, and you've opened your first physical location in Dade City about a year ago, roughly?
Yeah, April will be 1 year.
Okay. That is a huge step to take. Now, I'm sort of starting to look around and go through that process now of potentially taking that step. It's the scariest thing. I mean, was it were you nervous? I mean, are you still nervous now? I mean, were you confident that you had a well enough established brand and that people liked the product enough that pretty sure I'm going to be able to keep the lights on? Or was it like, hey, I think let's just try?
Yeah. I mean, when I was going downtown, it was a ghost town with COVID. So many businesses went under, and there was a lot of buildings coming up for rent. The determining factor was really after Christmas. So like I said, shortbread is primarily, given or eaten during Christmas time. So one of the women I'm in chorus with, she used to live in Scotland, and she had the shortbread and she called it. She was really, she's really one of the main reasons why I had confidence that I could do this.
Okay.
Because she said, Mary Catherine, that 1 pound bag is not enough. She said, I give Christmas presents every year. And she said, that 1 pound bag isn't enough. You're going to need to do something more. You're going to need to do a 10. She said, and I mean, she just gave me all the confidence in the world. She said, I lived in Scotland and this is the real deal. She's like, this is incredible. So I started researching tins. Okay. So I ended up getting a tin, and it's it's way more involved than you think. Like you have to find out, does your product fit in this thing? Where, you know, they have all these little dividing cavities and this and that. And then, oh, they have to ship it, but I don't have a loading dock and a law truck and all this stuff. So there was a lot involved. And I'm like, I just want tins sent to my house. Like, what is this going on? So Christmas was so big. I mean, there were so many sales that happened that I said, this is it. I'm going to do a store because I can't do this out of my house anymore. I didn't like having to go back and forth to the commercial kitchen. It was just too much. I had my kitchen, my own house was filled to the brink with everything you could imagine. Sure, so I have flour flinging everywhere all the time. So I started looking around town, and right next to the tea room was a vacant spot, and it was getting renovated. And so I walk in, and then I look at the number, and I call the number. I talked to the owner of the building. He had just bought it, and he was flipping or renovating it. And apparently his parents knew my dad. My dad pulled a calf back in the 70s and gave it CPR, which was really funny.
Okay.
It was very progressive then. Unfortunately, the cow did not make it. But it was just, that's what's so fun about small town USA is that all these little coincidences. So I said, all right, I'm just going to do this. And then I'm like, well, what do you do next? Like, do I do the construction inside? Do you?
Right.
But, I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
I say that a lot. And one of my friends who is an interior designer for the hotel world, she said, hey, do you think maybe I could do the design for your shop pro bono so I can help my business get more into the commercial side of things? And I'm like, yes. Yeah, please. I mean, sure. Here's my ideas. Here's my concepts. I want like a Hummer in there. I was like, I came from the hotel world. So when you go to these really crazy wild hotels, you start getting all these ideas.
Sure.
So she, put it in. Oh, and then on another part of it, one of my friends I grew up with works for a company that sells equipment for commercial kitchens, and he does the design of the kitchens.
No way.
So he's like, I'll come in. I mean, he's there with his laser measure doing it, put it in CAD for me, like drew up this stuff. I mean, all of it was just such a sense of community. It was really very special.
That's awesome.
All that to say, like, people want to help. Yeah. And it's just important that it's all reciprocated over time. Sure. She laid out the design. My husband built the front counter, and then I just started buying equipment and doing all stuff that was horrifying because that is not cheap stuff. Sure, right. So I started researching, loans, and I started researching credit cards with no interest and this and that. So I was able to do it, in my opinion, very effectively. I didn't go with a loan. I went with a credit card that had 1 year interest free. Okay. And then they had like these signing bonuses type things. If you spent X amount in 3 months, you got this much cash back. And I started just trying to do it the most economical way. Sure. And it worked. I mean, I did it and I did it well. And I was like, I can't believe this is happening. And, buying ovens and, counter refrigerators and counter freezers and all this stuff. I mean, it was a lot. Yeah, I mean,
I know a little bit about restaurants, having with the ventilation and all of that has to happen. So I know it's not cheap. I had a family friend who has now passed away, but he owned a restaurant, and I remember him telling me all the stuff he had to do to get the kitchen ready to go, just the kitchen by itself. Yeah. So I know, and I did want to talk about funding. You did sort of mention it, and so you're just self-funded. You didn't seek out like venture capital or anything like that. I mean, you got credit cards, you did it, and that's just how you did it.
And then when I started making the revenue, I had a year to pay that. So I would just, as soon as I would make the money, I would put it in so it wouldn't be this giant bill at the
Yeah.
end of it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
So, I mean,
there was no
do you
fee.
have potential investor people who want to invest money in you now? Have you gotten quite to that point yet where people are knocking on your door and wanting
They're
to
not, and I don't think I
Okay.
want to do that.
give you? Okay. You want the control. You don't want somebody else to have
Correct.
a sort of a say in how things potentially have to go.
Yeah, because I
and-
think you can grow too quickly, and then when you get too many fingers in the pot, it
Yeah.
just, I think I'm doing it in I wouldn't necessarily say it's a slow thing that I've done.
Yeah.
Because it's gone pretty quickly. This last 2 years now. I just don't feel like I want to grow faster than I'm comfortable with.
Yeah. I get that.
I listened to How It's Built,
Yep,
and
yep.
I listened
Yeah, love that.
to Stacey Brown's story, who's
Yeah,
the owner
yeah.
of Chicken Salad Chick. And long story short, I actually was able to get in contact with her, and she really gave me a lot of great advice. And I've come to the conclusion that I really want to keep this special in like a very small niche.
Gotcha.
I don't want it to be commercialized.
Okay.
So,
Okay. So I visited your shop, love it, and that day I met you at the dog park just a couple days ago or dog days, whatever that the name of that was there, and I went into your shop first, and there was somebody working there. So obviously you have an employee, at least one. So and that's a big step. Getting
big.
payroll set up is
yeah.
I mean. Payroll is a job for people in big companies,
It
so
is.
when did you make the decision to sort of relinquish some of the responsibility and bring somebody else in, at least one person anyway? You might have
Yeah.
others, but at least to help you out.
So over the summer, it was just another serendipitous thing.
Yeah.
My niece was out and she goes to college in Reno, and she just had a breakup with her long-term boyfriend, and she said, Aunt Mary Catherine, do you think maybe I could just come and stay at your house for the summer and I can help you with the shop? And I go, yeah. I said, you can watch my kids. And I'm like, yes, my own live-in au pair and then assistant at the shop. So
Right.
she came, and I didn't even realize how much help I needed until she was there. And I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, I was running myself completely ragged. And the summer really is slower because it rains every day and it's really hot. So you don't have as much foot traffic.
Sure.
So, but we still were very busy regardless because we ship nationwide. So I had her come in and she'd help me out. And then when it was time for her to leave, I said, okay, I'm going to have to hire someone.
Yeah.
So then you go, who do you hire? What do you do? How do I do this payroll and this and that and whatever?
Right.
So I post a little post, which is also very good advertising, by the way. When people know that you're growing, even though some people just think it's a post, you're advertising.
Sure.
Anytime your logo is anywhere, you're advertising.
Sure.
I put a post up saying, does anyone know anyone interested in maybe being my assistant? So a woman who came in frequently said, oh, my daughter would be great for it.
Nice.
Yeah. Because I'm trying to think. I think it was first the assistant and then my babysitter. She's one and the same at this point.
Gotcha.
So she started working. So I use Square for my point of sale.
Sure.
And they have a whole payroll system. And I talk to people in town who have these services, and I say, is it worth it? And they're like, yes.
Gotcha.
So she clocks in on the point of sale, and then I get a little text. It's like, time to do your payroll. And it's just click, click, click. I mean, they really do it where it's beneficial to a small business owner who's wearing a dozen hats.
Yeah.
At first I go, oh, it's $30 a month or $40 a month to do this and that. And then I'm going, but what am I going to do? Sit there and it is worth that.
Right.
So then they do all the W-2s and all that stuff that makes my brain explode. So it really is very beneficial. These organizations like
Yeah.
Square that can
Yep.
help small businesses succeed.
Right on, right on. Yeah, I use paychecks. I mean, I pay myself a paycheck, so I'm familiar.
And well, she was working also at Dunkin' Donuts part time,
Ah.
so we're trying to balance this. So a couple weeks ago, she is now full time at the shop.
Nice.
Yeah, 'cause
Nice. So
we
is that,
needed
is
it.
that your first full-time employee? Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Yeah.
So did you have, and I think you may have touched on this a little bit, did you have did you find a mentor, someone? So maybe when you found the Start Smart program, you had someone you could call, but up to that point, were you just winging it? I mean, did you have someone to show you?
I asked a lot of questions to a lot of people who have grown their businesses.
Yeah, sure.
I find the best way to learn is to talk to people who have already
Yep.
made a lot of mistakes and
Yes.
try to figure it out the hard way. And not to say that I haven't made a ton of mistakes or had to learn it the hard way.
Right.
I just find it's better to ask people. I mean, people really like to talk about themselves anyway.
Yeah.
So I found it was very refreshing to do that. So I don't have one mentor, but I have several who at any point I can just pick up the phone, ask a question, and get help that I need.
Did you find them? Is that all through the Start Smart program, or how did you find those folks? Or did you just?
So with the Smart Start program, Daniel Mitchell, who runs that, is a plethora of knowledge. So I would say he's like my number one go-to.
Sure.
Because he just knows things, and they do so many different events that we do a lot of work together, and we I'll share their stuff on social, he'll share mine, and we really work as a team together. My friend Vicky, the one that lived in Scotland, I mean, she was like, you need to do this type thing.
Yeah.
I think her confidence really helped me a lot.
Okay.
With that, even though, Stacey Brown is, I can call her if I need, listening to her story. I had one of my friends in chorus said, I just listened to this on NPR. She said, I really think you should listen to it. And I listened to her story and I just said, all right. I said, if she can do this, why can't I type thing?
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I mean, as far as the mentor side, it really is just a group of people and friends that I can reach out to.
Right on. So Mary Catherine, what does a typical day for you look like? So do you have any set routines? Are you a exercise, yoga, meditation person? Is the first 30 minutes of your day is answering emails, and then you this or that? Do you have a regimented schedule, or is it kind of haphazard?
It's mildly regimented. So
Okay.
I mean, wake up. I have a 4.5-year-old and a 7-year-old. So Monday
Okay,
through
okay.
Friday,
Sure,
it's
sure.
getting up. My husband has to leave at like 6:45 in the morning to teach at Pasco High School, and so it's getting up, getting the kids to school. They're at 2 different locations right now. And then usually I park and I walk St. Leo. So I walk in the mornings. There's some nice hills.
Okay.
So I'll walk there. Before it got cold, I was swimming at Lake Jovita in the pool, but then they don't have a heater, so I had to stop doing that. But I'm waiting for St. Leo's new wellness center to open so I can swim in their pool. But I will get back into swimming because that physically, I mean, with all my injuries that I have, it helps me out immensely.
Sure.
But because I stand all day long in the shop, I really need to get that exercise done, and the swimming actually makes my back not hurt. So do that, and then I'm rushing home, showering, get to the shop usually. Mondays is usually my supply run day. We didn't used to be open on Mondays. A lot of businesses in downtown aren't.
Okay.
But
I noticed that.
But my assistant was saying, I can come in Mondays and start making the dough for the week type thing. And I said, well, if you're there, let's just be open and see what type of revenue we can bring in.
Sure.
And it ended up being, because hardly anyone else is open and there are people out, that it is actually a pretty busy day. So
Okay.
We're now open on Mondays, but I still go and do the runs at Restaurant Depot, even though I really need to start getting delivery. We just don't have a lot of space. We have 500 square feet in my shop, so I don't have a lot of storage space.
Sure.
But a typical day would be coming in and just start baking.
Okay.
I've really started putting a lot of the laborious side of things on my assistant because I am over making shortbread. I'm over it. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't have a passion for like making the shortbread and stuff.
Sure.
I really am
Sure.
a salesperson. I
Sure.
love selling it, marketing it. That is my
Yeah.
thing. And I feel like I've earned my stripes.
I mean, the role of a CEO is to find what you're good at.
Yeah.
You do that, and you find other people to do everything
I've
else.
done all this stuff. I've,
Yeah.
been the janitor and
Right.
I've been, all of that. So,
Right.
but she doesn't work on Wednesdays. So that is my day where I do it all, but she will make enough dough for me and, she'll supply me nicely. But we do a lot of orders for corporate. So we have something called Smidgen Lassies, which are a 3-ounce cookie that's individually cut, individually wrapped, labeled, and all this stuff. So we do a lot of these for businesses. We do them for realtors that are giving gifts. We do them for fundraisers, swag bags, weddings, you name it.
Yeah.
So that's part of it. We have our whole online world where we're shipping every day all over the nation. And then we have the foot traffic and creating unique flavors. So we jam out to a lot of music in there.
Yeah, right on.
I really like it to be a very fun experience, even though it's very small and people aren't in there for a long time. I like having that unique, special experience where people will say, "Oh, I want to get fairy dusted." We have fairy dust. Little girls get. It's not all little girls. I've fairy dusted all people, all ages.
Sure.
But we just like to keep it light and fun when we can. And, and we do a lot of festivals, especially now when the weather's nice. So it's like almost every single weekend is a festival on top of running the shop and shipping nationwide.
More advertising.
So, yeah. So one of the most important things for me when I started doing the festivals was I looked at one of the most popular vendors that was at the Pioneer Museum in Dade City. And I mean, his setup, his tent was all professionally printed, and he had whatever his product was, I'm sure it was great, but visually his tent was clutch. So I started looking at these tents and I said, if I'm going to do this, I want to be the best looking tent they're going to see.
Yeah.
And so I invested. I mean, it was like $1,500, but had it all custom designed. Used my hospitality, people that I've known forever. So this woman that used to help me design area rugs, for Disney.
Yeah.
Also knows how to get into my brain and, take my crazy ideas and put them on a canvas. So we were able to make a really cool mural on the tent and I can't even tell you how many people are like, I don't even know what this is, but I just came here because it's like pink and there's stuff all over the place.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's awesome. So, so some of the stuff we've talked about then, and I'm understanding it myself, there's a completely different level of stress that you deal with when you're a business owner, unlike anything I've ever experienced in my entire life. So do you have how do you deal with it? Like I mean, and you've mentioned before the thoughts of self-doubt, like, oh my God, can I do this? What's your trick for dealing with that stuff?
Well, what I have found is people talk themselves out of stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And they're quick to say, "Oh, you're so lucky. How did you get so lucky?" It has nothing to do about luck. It has to do with looking at yourself in the mirror. I mean, when this first started happening, I remember I pulled my rearview mirror down. I was at a stoplight and I was like, "You are doing this." I said, there's all these people that probably want you to fail. Yeah. But you are going to do this. Yeah. And you are not going to fail because it's not an option right now. Right. So it's mental. It is so much mental. So, just acting on something, even though it might seem crazy and people might think you're nuts, who cares? They're the ones that don't do anything. Right. Right. So if you just have the idea, you have the tenacity and the desire to do it, you have to do it. Yeah. You have to make it work. If something isn't working right in the beginning, scratch it off, move on to the next thing, figure out how to make it work. Right. As far as stress goes, I mean, life is stressful in general. Running a business is stressful. Having small children, being married, the whole part of life is very stressful. I do like to, when we're not working, I do like to let loose, have some drinks, go listen to live music, be with great people. I just found, and Dade City is so unique and special because it is this small sense of community, but people genuinely want to help you. And if they see that you're struggling or you're stressed or whatever, they want to help. So I found recently, and I've tried so hard not to be like, I need help, but sometimes they can just see it and they'll just say, well, let me come in and help you. I mean, I have friends that will go, what do you need today? You want me to come in? I'll help you label. I'll help you bag and heat seal. And I'll go, yeah, I actually have like this 300 something order smidgens. And so I've just found that, but you have to reciprocate that.
Sure.
So I've just found that just being a good person and helping others that help you, you'll start seeing that things will start happening and help you alleviate some of the stress. I do want to get more into yoga. It's just finding the time. There is a new little yoga studio in town that she does like one-on-ones, but I really think we could use like a studio for multiple people in town, because that helps immensely with stress levels. But it is stressful. Yes, it is.
Now, so you just touched on luck, and it's interesting. It leads perfect to my next question here. There's a conversation that I find interesting when I listen to certain podcasts like this one, and there's someone on, I forget the exact episode for the How I Built This, but there was a man, and he said that he attributed as much as 90% of the success of his business to luck and 10% to hard work. And I just thought, I understand that luck plays a part. You have to get lucky, but at the same time, if you don't take the effort, if you don't put yourself in position to have the luck bestowed upon you in the first place. So I'm just curious, how much of your success do you attribute to luck, and how much do you attribute to just old-fashioned hard work?
So there's a really great saying, it's the harder you work, the luckier you get. Yeah. And luck is winning the lottery. Yeah. Luck is not working yourself to, pure exhaustion and hustling night and day. So I don't agree with that, but I don't know what he did.
Yeah, right.
I just think that understanding every single part of your business, cleaning the toilets, making all the dough, making all your shortbread, and being there till 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night, not being able to go here and there because you're trying to work. That's important so that you have an understanding of your business altogether. Mm-hmm. And then when you do hire people, you can say, this is exactly what I need you to do. And this is why. Oh, because I've done it. And so I think it helps you gives you that understanding, but you have got to hustle. If you want something to happen, there aren't people doing it for you. Right. I didn't have just news people knocking on my door. I literally wrote the story for them and said, hey, will you do this? There's no one that's going to want this more than yourself when you're a business owner. Right. So are some things lucky that, I was on the radio because I listened to the MJ morning show, and, I saw that he was really, talking to a lot of the people and saying, hey, write in. So I wrote in and I said, yeah, I used to love listening to you. And, my mind is always going like, how can I get on like mass media here? So he said, yeah, send me some shortbread. He opened it on the air. He did like a 3.5 minute plug of my business. I've seen the video. And I made that video. Yeah. I literally pulled over the side of the road and started recording it on the air. Nice. Made the video, posted the video. But people aren't doing it for you. Like, I think a lot of people want to think that stuff is just handed to people or set in their lap. And I have not come to that conclusion. Yeah. You have got to hustle. Yeah. Yeah. No doubt. So, and so for many people, they have this fear. Number one, that they're just not going to get lucky, I guess, but they also have this fear of failure, that it's the social stigma, I guess, of, hey, I'm going to try something and I'm going to fail, so I'm just not going to try it. Mm-hmm. And so I know there's a lot of people out there who might be listening to this and could use some words of advice. Like, so what if you were talking to an aspiring entrepreneur, somebody who was like you were before, what advice would you give to that person? I mean, I would say that if you really want something bad enough, you're going to do everything you can to make it happen.
Yeah.
There's a quote that I have written down that's one of my faves, and it's by Earhart. Just give me one second. Yes, Amelia.
Yep.
And the most difficult thing is the decision to act. The rest is merely tenacity.
Love that. Yeah.
So I just find that most people, I don't want to say most people, but so many people are afraid to go out on a limb and do something that's unique and different.
Yes.
And I mean, some of the most amazing entrepreneurs in the world have done stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So another thing I learned in the Marine Corps is, I mean, it is mental.
Yeah.
It's mental. I mean, was Marine Corps boot camp physically exhausting and crazy? Yes. But it was probably 80% mental of telling yourself that you couldn't do something. I cannot climb that rope. There's no way I can climb that rope. Mm-hmm. And then you have a drill instructor going, oh, you're going to climb that rope.
Next thing you know, you're up the rope.
But this recruit can't.
Yeah.
Oh, you climb that rope.
Yeah.
You will do those push-ups, whatever it is, because it is something that you have to, if you're not comfortable mentally, you have got to get in some other mindset, channel your Sasha Fierce or whatever it is that you have in you to fake it until you make it.
Yeah.
To not talk yourself out of it.
Yeah.
It's looking in the mirror and saying, you're going to do it.
Right.
Because there's no other option.
Right.
So I've listened to so many other people who are successful say stuff like that, even like really famous people. And I'm just going, yeah, right. Like they had to do something else. But really, I genuinely think if there's something that you want to do bad enough, you're going to make it happen. Something that I think is also really important is if you have something, a product that other people have, and there's a million of these things, you're going to somehow have to differentiate yourself and make it unique and different.
Yep.
So is there other shortbread in the world? Yes, there is. Are there shortbread shops only? Probably not. I mean, I've had so many people call and they go, you only sell shortbread? That is correct.
Yeah.
I am not a baker. I do know how to make shortbread, but yeah, I made this little niche and I wanted to make it crazy and different. And that's what I know.
Yep.
I don't think you should go outside your comfort level. If you know that you can do something, you can do it really well. You really need to hone in and focus on doing that really well.
Yeah.
If there's other things that can complement it, fine, but don't make it harder on yourself. You really need to sit down and have a talk with yourself and say, what is it that I can do that is bringing something unique and different to someone else? What problem am I solving? You know, like whatever you're selling, like what am I doing that will make a difference?
Yeah.
So I just think it's having a talk with yourself, looking in the mirror and getting real serious and tough, because anyone can say, I can't do that. Right.
Yeah, I agree totally. All right, so we'll start winding down here. I have this last little segment that I call my 3 quick question round.
Okay.
It's just what I call it. So 3 quick questions. What does it mean to you to be an entrepreneur?
What does it mean to me? Well, it's been a sense of, it's been fun that I don't have to rely on a boss. I don't have to worry about, oh gosh, I'm not going to come in today. Are they going to be mad at me? Or I might have these great ideas that are like shot down all the time. So I think being an entrepreneur, the freedom of just being able to do whatever the heck you want. And if it doesn't work out, it's all on you. Like you can't blame anyone else. So it's been very fun experience for me to really hone in and sell a product or have a business that really is truly this brand I've been building my whole life.
Yeah.
So it's been really exciting to go, oh, well, that experience was this stepping stone, and that experience is this stepping stone. And then you start getting excited about, oh my gosh, I can really make something with all these years of life and experience. So I don't know if I'm truly answering the question great for you, but I think being an entrepreneur is fun and exciting, and like the sky's the limit, and you can really just do whatever you want to do. And if it makes it, yay. Yep. If it doesn't, do something else in a different direction, and
Yeah.
maybe you'll find something else that you didn't think that you wanted to do. And that's the
Yeah.
joy of being an entrepreneur.
Love it. Okay. So what does it mean to you to be successful?
It means a lot to me because I think there's so many people that want to see you fail, as negative as that sounds. So I've always been pretty driven my whole life. I don't know if it has to do with being the baby of 5 children and, look at me, here I am. I don't know if that's what it is, but I'm very hard on myself when it comes to that. If I fail, I take it very, very difficult. Like I take it very hard. And so, I don't want to say number one and sound very cocky, but I just think, with being in sports for so long, like winning was everything.
Yeah.
So I don't know truly how to answer that question, I guess.
That's okay. So no worries at all. So, all right. So then are there
it's very important.
Yes. Understood. So are there any good books you've read lately or any good books you would recommend to somebody else? They don't have to be business related. Just any good books.
I'm obsessed with Outlander, which has nothing to do with
Outlander. Okay.
business.
All right.
And actually, I've really and what I like about Outlander, which you said has nothing to do with business.
Sure. Yeah.
It is historically accurate about my family's heritage in Scotland.
Okay.
So I have learned a tremendous amount of my Scottish roots from these stories and about.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, because it's about like the end of the Highland culture in the 1740s and how, the English and the Scots had a war, had a battle, and, England took over and the Scottish heritage was almost lost completely. I mean, if you wore your family tartan, you could be hung and you couldn't speak in Gaelic. And so all these things that are from my background, from my family, I didn't really know anything about. My grandfather and his family moved, I think in the early 1900s from Scotland. And this is his mother's shortbread recipe. And I don't really ever remember him talking about Scotland. And now that my business is, driven on this Scottish product and I sell that story,
Sure.
it has helped me have this understanding of the Scottish people and how hard they have had to live. Just like so many other groups. So it's a great series of books. There's also a show. It can get a little steamy, but I really like the Outlander books.
Right
They're
on.
awesome. As far as business, I don't.
What about podcast? We can go with podcasts.
Well, the How It's Built, really, I love a lot.
Yeah.
I
listen to every single one of them.
Yeah,
Actually,
I really love hearing where people started, how they started it, how scrappy they had to get, how creative they had to get.
Yeah.
I would say that's probably my favorite.
Right
is that.
Okay.
So.
Okay, so I don't have any questions left. So, are there any topics that we didn't cover? Anything you want to expand on?
There are some other effective ways of advertising that I've found have been very beneficial for me with an advertising background. For instance, I have stickers.
Okay.
So this is one of. This is our female veteran-owned sticker. This is my regular logo.
Yeah.
This is the hot pink Jeep I have in my shop.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I found that it's important to have your logo everywhere.
Yeah.
So most businesses sell stickers of their business. I give away a waterproof, UV-proof sticker with every single purchase or a postcard. I found that when my daughter said, "Mommy, so-and-so had your sticker on their water bottle at school." I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, so it's working.
Genius. Yeah.
So, that might have cost me 35 cents for the sticker times, however many thousands. And I give them away when I ship and everything like that.
Yeah.
I do the same with certain T-shirts. And when I ship my packages, I have a stamp. I stamp my logo on every single box that goes out. I have this packaging tape that has my logo all over it. And I've had friends in the other side of the state who are mail carriers say, I just saw your package go through
No
the
way.
mail.
Yeah,
Like
nice.
you wouldn't know what that was. It was just a brown box.
Yeah.
My best friend's mom they just bought a house in Tarpon Springs, and she was wearing one of my shop shirts, and this lady walked by and she goes, "Oh my gosh, that's my favorite little shop in Dade City." So, and my best friend's mom's like, "Really?"
Yeah.
So, I don't think people think that way. I think they think, "Oh, this is going to cost me money."
Right.
But,
right.
I give a 10% discount in the shop if you wear my shirt in the shop, because they're also
that's
wearing
genius.
it outside
that's
all
genius.
day.
Yeah.
And I have children's shirts, and I'm very big in community and sponsoring. I mean, if there's anything that I can do and sponsor where my logo, my billboard is somewhere, I'm on it. I mean, we're at the Pasco baseball fields now. I have billboards at my daughter's school. I've sponsored her big fundraising ball they have every year. The Miss Pasco pageant, anywhere and everywhere. Yeah, it might be $200.
Sure.
But they're sitting there talking throughout the thing going, "Thank you to our sponsors."
Yeah, right.
And you can't get that any other way. So
Sure.
I think it's really important for people. And I know I went to school for advertising, but it truly makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
If you are as many places, if your logo is many places, if you can go online and find some of these companies like Bonfire that can create, your own logo wear that just ships to people's houses and stuff like that, where you don't have to have an inventory. There's so many creative
Is that where
ways.
you get your stuff created?
Yeah. So with Bonfire, it is it's embedded in my website. So you click on it, says merchandise.
Yeah.
You can pick whatever, tank top, hoodie, shirt, color, whatever.
Right.
Have it mailed right to your house.
Gotcha.
So there's no investment for me whatsoever.
Sure.
And
Sure.
I just think, we have, and I'm very huge, speaking of, the community, in being a part of these festivals. So Dade City is Monarch City, USA, that the Garden Club made Dade City. So all the appropriate plants are planted, and now we're deemed Monarch City, USA. We have a big Monarch Butterfly Festival. I was a sponsor, but the whole time, Kevin Taggarty at Dade City Life, he's on the microphone saying, "Don't forget your sponsors, don't forget your sponsors."
Yeah.
And we were slammed the whole time.
Wow.
So I think people really need to be cognizant of the importance and the power of advertising and
Sure.
how much it can help you.
Yeah.
But you can do it in a unique, affordable way.
Sure. Yeah.
So I
Okay.
think it's very important to be as many places as you can be and utilize the free stuff as much as you can. Utilize the news, utilize social media. And that's something I was talking with Greg Goody at Kumquat Growers is, I came up there and I said, "Greg, you don't have a very strong social media presence." He's like, I know, because he didn't understand it.
Right.
It's just daunting. It can be hard. I said, "All right, let's
Sure,
sit down
sure.
and let's figure this out, and let's just teach you some basic skills so you can easily," because they do so much, and
Right.
they're Kumquat City, USA. It's who else can say they're the largest, grower of kumquats?
Yeah.
So I think if you find your niche and how you're special, you just need to really hone in on how to tell everyone that.
Gotcha.
And,
I did skip over one question here. What does the future hold for Lanky Lassise? Do you have any plans right now to open a second store? Or I think I read you were thinking about putting a speakeasy upstairs. Is that still in the plans?
Well, so
or?
that building I don't own.
Okay.
But I do like the old Kiefer Drug building, but it's very expensive right now. So,
Sure.
So it's funny you asked that. One of my coworkers that I used to work with at Envision, she recently just lost her job. She'd been there for 16 years and she's up in Griffin, Georgia. So she said, "I think I want to do what you did with Lanky Lassise." And I said, "Okay, like, what do you mean?"
Like shortbread?
And, yeah. So what we did is she is starting off exactly like I did. We made my logo, but put Griffin, Georgia on it. We got her stickers. We got her shirts set up. We did all that. She's starting to do festivals. She is making it right now cottage law out of her home.
Yeah.
She buys all the labels, all the packaging type stuff. And I said, once you get up on your feet, then we'll start talking about royalties type thing. So essentially, she'll be doing everything and then pay me.
Look at you franchising.
Yeah. So pay me a percentage type thing.
Yeah.
So she's hustling up there. Really my idea and my thought is I would really like to open other locations that are in a historic area.
Okay.
In a historic building.
Okay.
And keep each shop very unique and special and, romantic. That's the word that Stacy Brown used when I talked to her. Because she talked about franchise versus like having multiple locations.
Okay.
And she said, if you have a true franchise, if you want to add a flavor or do something like that, she's like, that could be a 6-month process once you start franchising.
Okay.
And so I really like the small cutesy niche. I think it'd be fun to have locations where the weather's great at different times of the year. So maybe have a pop-up in Blue Ridge for the summer or something like that. I really want to keep it. I don't want it to be crazy big because I don't want it to lose its value and how special it is. A couple months, this was last year, maybe a year and a half ago, one of my hotel clients who I just finished building with them, the True by Hilton in downtown St. Pete. That was my last project before I lost my job. She called me one day and I was like, I don't have a job anymore. She's like, what are you doing? And I told her. So she ordered Shortbread. And she goes, well, we're friends with the Lassise, the Lassise family. I'm like, okay, who are they? She's like, well, they make like almost all of Publix's baked goods. I said, oh, okay. Well, that sounds cool. So I went to their plant. I saw them. I toured the facility. I mean, this is a massive facility and they have all these machines and laser cutters and this and that.
Right.
And, I just remember him saying that no one's going to pay $16 a pound for shortbread. I was like, okay. Yeah. And he was more speaking in a grocery store, which I get. He's like, no one even sells a pound of shortbread. Everything's like in a 5 ounce or an 8 ounce. It's all the same price. They just sell a smaller package of it. What I was thinking, I was like, well, do I really want this on every public shelf? I mean, I know that sounds silly to say, but I just think it loses its unique specialness of being made in small batches. And so that was also a big stepping stone for me, was when someone tells me you can't do that. Yeah. I'm like, well, I'm doing it. And I think I'm going to continue because it's working. Yeah. I don't know. Right. So I don't know. I just, I think keeping it small and niche, and I really want to keep it in the community. Gotcha. So I think being, like this big brand is not for me. Not what you want. No. Gotcha. I would like people to be like, have you had this great, it's just a small little business and this is just what they do. And, that creates. So there's no IPO that you're looking forward to down the road somewhere, going public, trading stocks and doing all this stuff and makes me ringing the bell. Yeah, no, not for you. That's not for me. I got you. I got you. My brother sits and watches his stocks like all day long. I'm like, that will give you a heart attack. Like, I'm thinking I just want to have something that is unique and special that I can ultimately hire managers to run, and I can do the fun stuff. I can do the marketing and the advertising, and that's what I have fun doing. Yeah. So I just think just like Stacy said, keeping it romantic is really what I really want to keep it at. Understood. So, but yeah, up in Griffin, she's hustling it. So okay. Well, I've really enjoyed this conversation. I think there's a lot of really interesting and really good information in here for people listening at home. So, how can people find you? Obviously, we've mentioned your website and your address, but plug it again. Any social media stuff? How can different events you have planned? How can people find you, and how can people buy your shortbread? Mm-hmm. So our website is llshortbread.com, LankyLassieShortbread.com. Mm-hmm. Our storefront is in downtown Dade City on Meridian and 7th. It's 37845 Meridian Avenue. Mm-hmm. We're right next to Angel's Tea Room. I'm very big into our Downtown Dade City Merchants Association, so I also handle their social media as well. Okay. So, wow. So I try to really collaborate with everyone in our community. So we all are helping and sharing each other's businesses and ultimately bringing people into our downtown. Our store number is 352-424-8937. 352-424-8937. I'm at the shop most of the time. Sometimes I'm buying supplies and who knows where, dragging the kids around.
Yeah.
Festivals and all that will be on our website. So that's at LL Shortbread, @ We're on Instagram and Facebook. I think I have a Twitter account. I mean, there's only so many. I have TikTok too. There's only so many things you can really handle.
Yeah. That's
so
for
we're
sure.
on all these things. You can message us on Messenger, on Facebook or Instagram. Give us a call if you have something unique and special you want to do. I'm doing a wedding here coming up, and we use a lot of chocolate molds where you can decorate the shortbreads and make it very unique and special.
Okay.
Corporate gifts, a lot of businesses, they'll have their logo on the front of it. My sticker and information will be on the back.
Gotcha.
And realtors really like it because when they give their gift baskets, they're giving local products. So people tend to really like that with our small town. And
awesome.
Yeah. That's it.
Awesome. Well, Mary Catherine, thank you very much for being here. I really appreciate it. And everyone else, thank you too for tuning in. If you've enjoyed the show, I ask that you just share it around. The best way for new folks to find the show is for our current listeners to talk about it and share it around. So give us a like, give us a comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm your host, Eric Baker, and this has been another episode of The Art of Business. Bye for now.